Southwest of the Lithuanian capital city of Vilnius, atop the roof of the university hospital, Sergeant Artūras Šimonytė, a forward observer in the Iron Wolf mechanized infantry brigade of the Lithuanian armed forces, eyed the drone footage streaming in from overhead. It was not good news. His city was nearly surrounded. To the north, Russian airborne forces had successfully cut off the A2 and A14 highways, while hours earlier, armor and mechanized infantry units had finally seized the Vilnius International Airport after 2 days of brutal, close-in fighting. As the Russians pressed forward in their attempt to encircle and cut off the capital city, nowhere was more critical in the moment for both Russia and Lithuania alike than Ponari, a southwest neighborhood and hub of the last remaining highways out of Vilnius. And now Ponari was under serious threat as Russian units pushed northward along Highway A19. From his vantage point, Sergeant Šimonytė was calling in all the fire support he could acquire against the onslaught. But resources were frightfully thin, with NATO artillery units forced to divide their attention between Russian units attacking Vilnius in the east and those from Kaliningrad, threatening and harassing from the west. Acquiring timely close air support was proving even more frustrating, with air assets task-saturated from the northern tip of Norway to the eastern Mediterranean Sea. Suddenly, Sergeant Šimonytė heard an explosion to the east. His heart sank, knowing immediately what it must be. The Russians had just bombed the bridge spanning the Neris River, severing one of the few remaining routes out of the city. Almost simultaneously, Lithuanian and Allied forces in Ponari radioed that they were falling back, in fear of being overrun. Sergeant Šimonytė remembered thinking in the moment, where the hell were they going to fall back to? The defense of Vilnius was in collapse. Inside a Soviet-era bunker beneath the presidential palace, Lithuanian President Jonas Mitalas received the news from his forces in the field. His city was now essentially surrounded, and with several bridges crossing the Neris River targeted and destroyed, those defenders remaining inside Vilnius now had their backs to the wall as the Russians concentrated in the south for a final push into the heart of the capital. Mitalas's Minister of National Defense, Rytis Landsbergis, made it clear that the defense would not hold for much longer. "We're talking hours," he said, "not days, before fighting would devolve to street and house to house." "What about the Poles and the Americans?" asked the president. "When could Lithuania expect reinforcements?" Yet Mitalas already knew the answer. Despite the many public promises coming from Brussels, Warsaw, and Washington, the fact was, the cavalry wasn't coming anytime soon. Though there was significant fighting taking place in and around the Suwałki Gap, as well as near constant skirmishes along the Polish border with Kaliningrad and Belarus, the posture of the Polish and American ground forces remained defensive only. Unlike Estonia and Latvia, where NATO quick reaction forces had boots on the ground, Lithuania was deemed by NATO leadership as too risky an endeavor until significant forces could be assembled for a counterattack from Poland. And currently, a significant portion of those forces were only now gathering at ports across the Atlantic and Gulf coasts to board ships bound for Europe. "We're looking at weeks," said Landsbergis, "not days." The US State Department was recommending that Mitalas and his cabinet evacuate and form a temporary government in exile. "To live to fight another day," as their ambassador said. The US and its allies were absolute in their belief that later, once sufficiently in place, their forces would drive Russia out of the Baltics. But that was later. In the moment, Mitalas was facing the imminent destruction of his 700-year-old city and the deaths of tens of thousands of his citizens. As he considered his options, a new message arrived. This from Major General Alexei Sleptsov of the Russian 3rd Motor Rifle Division, demanding that Metalis and his government surrender or face the annihilation of Vilnius. After a hasty and grim meeting with his cabinet ministers and military commanders, a final decision was made. Vilnius would be declared an open city, and soon after, Lithuania would surrender. But before that was to happen, Metalis and his cabinet would evacuate to Poland. An immediate request was sent to NATO headquarters. Within moments, that request blitzed across NATO leadership and was, for many, met with frustration. As one NATO commander put it, "Now they want out. Not 2 days ago when we advised, when it would have been easy. Now we've got to do it in a city under siege." At Ramstein Air Base in Germany, air operation planners already had a plan in place. Unfortunately, that plan involved units who were now no longer in play, the most notable being elements of the US 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, who were more urgently needed for a clandestine mission in Finland. Instead, the non-combatant evacuation operation in Lithuania was quickly taken on by the US Marines 22nd MEU, currently transiting the Danish Straits near Copenhagen. Hours later, 4 monstrous CH-53K King Stallion helicopters, along with 3 UH-1Y Venoms and an AH-1Z Viper attack helicopter, landed and refueled at an airbase outside of Wierzbiny, Poland, for the low, dark and dangerous flight into Lithuania. Under the cover of darkness, pilot and flight lead, US Marine Corps Lieutenant Colonel Nick Gless, call sign Yes Up, led the flight of King Stallions, with 2 of the Venoms stationed for contingencies at a holding location in a farmer's field east of the city of Alytus. Trailing behind Gless was a single Venom, acting as command and control by Assault Flight Lead Lieutenant Colonel Cole Kinder, along with an escorting Viper. As the flight crossed the border into Lithuania, satellite, drone and aircraft reconnaissance swept the path ahead looking for threats, while combat aircraft made racetrack patterns in the sky, ready in a moment to support the operation. Meanwhile, 2 electronic warfare aircraft blanketed Vilnius in a digital haze. Thundering southeast down the Neris River Valley at just 25 feet above the water, the glow of Vilnius soon came into view, and with it, Lieutenant Colonel Kinder announced a troubling new update. Ground team is reporting sporadic fighting with Russian sabotage units inside the city. Gless remembered thinking, "Then let's hope the good guys have cleared us a spot, because we're wheels down for 60 seconds and not a second longer." The good guys he was referring to were a combination of Lithuanian Special Operations Forces and operators in the Danish Jaeger Corps, each acting to secure the 2 chosen landing zones. The first, designated LZ Ernie, was located in the Cathedral Square, just blocks from the presidential palace. Ernie would be the location to extract the president, his family and key ministers. The second, a soccer field 2 kilometers to the west, LZ Waldorf, would be the landing zone to extract members of Lithuania's Supreme Court and select members of parliament. Near LZ Ernie, Jaeger Corps operator Lauga Farnes and his team held a commanding view of the area atop Gediminas Castle Tower, their presence drawing fire, but also providing his sniper team the chance to identify and retort. Over the radio, Farnes heard that the helicopters were 2 minutes out. From the direction of the presidential palace, he quickly spotted the president's convoy of armored vehicles racing for the Cathedral Square. Farnes and his team laid supporting fire as best they could. From the west, Lieutenant Colonel Gless and a flight of 2 King Stallions broke off for LZ Ernie, skimming the rooftops as tracer fire erupted from multiple directions at once, though was as yet ineffective. Dropping into the Cathedral Square, the wheels of his helicopter had barely touched the ground when his Marines fanned out, securing the immediate area as the first vehicles of the convoy rolled in. For Gless, there was a moment of furious frustration as the president's security team argued with ministers about who would ride with the president. The issue was resolved with the crash of an artillery shell landing just a block away, sending everyone scrambling for the nearest helicopter. As his wheels left the surface, Gless noted the time. They had been on the ground for 58 seconds. Egressing west, word came that things were not going as smoothly at LZ Waldorf. One of the King Stallions had taken fire, and though there were no injuries, the helicopter was now stranded in the soccer field. With Russian units closing in and the Viper taking fire, Lieutenant Colonel Kinder determined that it was simply too late to bring in the Venoms from the holding site. Dropping into the field, he picked up what few people he could, but in doing so, terrible, fateful decisions were made of who would stay and who would go. Dodging away to the southwest amidst the tracers, Kinder called in an airstrike on the disabled King Stallion, giving just enough time for those left behind to flee, and for Russian forces to arrive in their attempt to secure the helicopter as a 1,000-pound glide bomb streaked in. By dawn, the leadership of Lithuania was safely inside Poland, but it had come at a bitter and controversial cost. Left behind were Lithuanian and Allied troops desperately retreating for Poland, along with those inside Vilnius who were either forced to surrender, scatter, or go underground. In the privacy of his makeshift office, an anguished President Mitalas was heard to ask more than once, "Did we do the right thing?" Time would tell. In the next episode, two journalists trapped in occupied territory risk their lives to expose war crimes while being hunted by Russian Colonel Oleg Nagamov, the butcher of Latvia. If you enjoyed this series, please send me a YouTube thanks, or join my Flat Circle History Patreon site, where you will get behind-the-scenes access, member-only content, or even have a character named after you. Plus, it will help out John, that's me, myself, and I, the one-man show who makes this all possible. No, seriously, it's just me. Me and this British-sounding AI narrator. Lastly, a shout-out to Ian Brown, retired US Marine officer and CH-53 pilot, who gave me the critical info needed to finish this script. Thanks, Ian. And as always, please like, subscribe, and share this video. And thanks for watching.